All right, good morning or afternoon. I guess it depends on whenever you're watching this. Since it's asynchronous, which was kind of the point, we got a lot of PD that we needed to have time for you all to do, so we've uploaded these to the interwebs for you to watch anytime and to get taken care of. I have two pieces of information here today. One is about IPCs, what's staying the same, what's changing. And then actually also on the back end of this is information on what homerooms will kind of look like structurally. So I'm just going to lump all this into one. The homeroom PD is mostly for middle school teachers, but we want high school teachers to know what's going on within the building, since it's kind of a large issue that's happening every fifth period. So that way everybody's in the know. So I'm going to get right into it. All right, there we go. So instructional update. The objective here is that the learner will know what has or hasn't changed about IPCs, articulate the differences between ACMO expectations of 2019 and 2020, and develop and articulate what virtual aggressive monitoring looks like. Okay, so what hasn't changed? Actually, first off, the vision has changed, but the point about the vision is that the vision still drives our IPCs and our instructional methodology. So if you will consult paragraph 2 of the vision, you'll see what's really driving us. And part of my job is to execute Mr. Penland's vision, which is laid out right there. And then by extension, that is the same for you all. So this will cover what those things look like. So the IPC,
Teachers and staff, pardon this interruption. I need the following staff to the main office, Building A, please. I need Esteban Garcia, Amy McFarland, Randy McKelvey, Jennifer Morales, Lizetta Thomas, Carla Turner, and Phyllis Wingfield, please.
All right, sorry about that. I guess when we're going to be working on campus, we're going to have to be taking into consideration announcements that may be going on. So anyways, IPCs should be turned in by end of the day Thursday. Technically, it's Friday. I'm going to say this, though. We're going to be A day, B day, right? So we're not always going to have PLCs on Thursday and on Friday. It's going to be either or, right? So there's going to be some leeway there. I personally, for way I kind of work, Thursdays really are the best day. That way, if they're turned in Thursday, I can look at them a little bit more on Friday and give feedback. Although a lot of times in my PLC, I'm giving feedback real time when we're in person. But if not, then that extra day is going to be important. That way we can get it solidified by Monday, right? If we're turning in Friday, then if I'm giving corrections over the weekend, then that means you need to make corrections over the weekend, and then there's work on the weekend. Well, I don't mind a little bit of that, right? We all do some of it, I'm sure. But as you can see, Thursday may make a little bit more sense when it comes to that. Okay, moving along, of course, objectives on the IPC and exit tickets on the IPC are required. When we say exit tickets, we don't mean a description of the exit ticket. We mean the actual exit ticket. So if you have that like on a slip of paper that will be given to students if we were in real time, it's that. So it could be a copy and paste of that from whatever document that it comes to. We need to be able to see the actual exit ticket, not page 232 out of workbook watching such and such and such and such. That doesn't really tell us anything. Can't see anything on there. Can't get feedback on that without going to go look up that book and get 100 resources, right? It needs to be taken and put on there explicitly, right? Of course, what's not said right here, and what I won't get into though, is that something that is required is that the objective and the exit ticket are aligned. And I say hyper aligned, like the exit ticket needs to measure the objective, okay? That's sort of inherent. It's not something you really put down on paper, but it's something that the IPC has to do, and that hasn't changed. Success criteria needs to be listed on the IPC. We'll get into more about that and where it comes from in a second. Wicker and ELPS need to be identified. The SC and its star frequency also need to be identified by lesson. Now, we're going to A day, B day, right? So you may list all the SCs that you're covering in that entire class period. That's fine. You may be breaking your lessons up so that you're doing a 45-minute lesson and then another 45-minute lesson within the 90-minute period. And you may want to disaggregate those like that for the ease of planning or delivery. But you also may have essentially be covering 2 traditional days of material as outlined on the scope and sequence within that 90-minute period. Either way, the SCs need to be identified and their star frequency. Star frequency in large part is coming from lead forward and the distribution chart. So it's very important that that information is on there. Why? Because we are using that in large part to figure out what instruction we're putting in there, what we're leveraging, right? And how much the state's going to test certain things is kind of a big deal. If you're not STAR, let's say you're AP or your subjects aligns more to like a UIL competition, you would probably want to list in there things about like, for instance, at competition, how is this topic that we're covering today in band being assessed, you know, in our performance, or what rubric that's coming from. So there's lots of different ways to transfer that over to non-core subjects and or non-tested subjects. Okay, of course, data meetings are going to follow as a result of IPCs being done. And then IPC should be reflective of the leveraging and alignment that's being done. There's nowhere to list those things exactly, but they're being done sort of within. You don't have to list no show charts, but again, it's not easy to talk about the IPC and what's different or not different without mentioning the no show charts. These are something that still have to be turned in. So no show charts are submitted weekly, just like the IPC is. And of course, the no-show chart is where we get the success criteria from. And the success criteria basically serves as a stair step from the objective to the exit ticket, basically how to get from the beginning to the end. Okay, all right. So if you can copy that link into your browser, that'll take you to a GoFormative page. There should be a progress check 1, maybe a couple questions on there. Go ahead and answer those so I can aggressively monitor you at this point. Make sure that you're getting the information that I need you to get. So pause me, go do that, come back. All right, so you should be back now. Let's talk about what has changed. So, about the IPC. Aggressive monitoring has changed. Mostly I would say it's changed in expectation. It's not going to really come out in the IPC a whole lot, but let me tell you something that I'm more so doing that can be implemented. So the expectation is that it's being utilized each day. So aggressive monitoring should be utilized each day. It's required on the same day that is designated to collect the exit ticket. Okay, so let me kind of parse out what that means. So within the math department, there's a day during the week or a lesson during the week that we identify that we are going to collect the exit ticket from that day so that we can specifically study in a data meeting. And we chose that day for that exit ticket to be collected because it may be the highest leveraged item of the week, meaning whatever topic that we're covering on this day, it's highly tested on the next interim. It's highly tested on STAR. It's a large topic that the state and the curriculum sees as very important. And so we are going to collect that exit ticket. All right. Well, that's a fantastic day to be doing aggressive monitoring and really doing it to to the best of our ability. So that day it's required, right? So what goes into aggressively monitoring? You have pre-planned laps. And the first lap is procedural. Then the rest of the laps are defined by the success criteria, SE, as I've shortened it there. The laps are announced. So your first lap would say something like, I'm coming around to check that you have begun doing this thing. It may be just writing the question down, or the formula if it's science, the equation if it's math, so on and so forth, right? I'm sure there's parts to the writing process in English that could be said to be procedural, right? Then you walk your pathway and you use your marking system to then determine where students were within that lab, that success criteria. So your marking system is required, and that would be like a check, a dash, or a circle. Check, they got it right. Dash, they're still progressing. Circle, I need to circle back around to them and check because they didn't get where they needed to be at by the time I came around to their desk, right? You should have a defined pathway throughout your seating chart, right? I'm going to go this way. I'm going to start right here and go to this kid first, then that kid second, and finish up over here at this desk. And then you'll progress through that way each time. So all that's required on the day that the exit ticket's collected. And the purpose of that is because if you're aggressively monitoring, then you are giving a higher likelihood, higher probability that the students are going to perform well on the exit ticket whenever it's given, because you have very specific knowledge of how the student progressed throughout the lesson. Okay? Big question here. Who is aggressively monitoring, or who is aggressive monitoring for? It's for everyone, not just those in PLCs. Take it another step forward. It is not just for those who are tested. And that, I've talked about examples for UIL. It's for, it can be used in CTE classes, of course. Whatever objective that you are trying to accomplish at a high rate, this is a best practice. So it needs to be utilized. If we're trying to increase AP scores, and we're covering a topic that's highly represented on AP test, right? We're collecting that exit ticket for that, right? So we need to be aggressively monitoring. Again, best practice. Should be done each day, but it needs to be done the day of the exit ticket for sure. All right, head on back to that Go Formative. Answer those questions quickly. Come on back. All right, you're back with me now. Okay, so virtual formative assessing. This is very important. I wanted to get into this in breakout groups real time, but this is not allowing for that. But I really wanted you guys to wrestle with ways to do it virtually. I try to put in examples of this essentially with my formative, Go Formative, because it's important that we are aggressively monitoring these students throughout the virtual time, right? So I can go back and see in my formative or Go Formative how you guys have performed. And I can see, like, if you missed question number 3 at a high degree, that I might need to reteach that I did. If I see that question number 4 only has a handful of people that are missing it, well, then I just know I need to go have a simple conversation with them, maybe to follow up on the idea that's going on, right? So I can address the reteach in a number of different ways based off of how the data comes out from the questions, right? What I'm looking for on the Go Formative is for all students who take that, in this case you folks, to do 100% on that. Now, if I see that, then I know that I can proceed on to the next lesson, right? And I just want to hear this come out from here, because I don't know if we're going to be in virtual come September 28th, or if that's going to be extended throughout the semester, and I don't know if testing is going to take place this next spring. it may not. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to proceed as if it is. And so we need to do this better than anyone else. This is going to be a crucial area that if we are doing this when others aren't, then we are going to rise to the top. And I expect that to happen, and y'all, math department knows that's kind of the mentality too that gives off about how to go through these formative assessments, because they're very crucial to getting from the objective to the exit ticket. Okay, this is going to be my breakout group, but we'll proceed on. All right, so exit tickets. Go back to the Go Formative and answer that exit ticket, and that'll be that finished up, and I'll check and see how you guys did. And that'll also kind of give me some ideas about who is in attendance, right? So it's another way to check for student attendance. So I'll check to see y'all's attendance and give you credit for this. Okay, moving on. Homeroom. All right, homeroom is pretty simple. It's on a 3-day rotation. That's a block day rotation, right? So technically it's be every 6 days of school, but it's on a 3-day rotation because it's every third. It's every B day, but it works out for every third B day for a different grade level. So every grade level has an assembly every third B day. So on the first B day, 6th grade will have an assembly. On the second B day, 7th grade would have an assembly. On the third B day, 8th grade would have an assembly. Those assemblies will be in the auditorium. So each grade level will have one assembly per rotation. So every 3 days, one assembly per grade level. Each grade level will have 2 B days of study hall. So whenever you're not in assembly, if your grade level, if you have a class whose grade level's not in assembly, then they'll be staying in the classroom doing study hall or guided lessons. You could do Avid tutorials with that as well, that Avid tutorial structure. When your students are in assembly, you will need to accompany them to the auditorium. Okay, you will act as monitor there. You will need to have your class sit together. They are not just to go in there for free for all, so they need to be gathered. If a student needs to be addressed while in the auditorium, there's no better person than you to take care of that, since they're actually in your class at that moment. If they're way across the auditorium, there could be another teacher over there monitoring that actually doesn't know them directly, and so it's not as easy to redirect them. Okay. How's attendance going to be taken? So attendance is going to be taken each day by homeroom teacher. After attendance is taken, then you proceed to the auditorium. So you might be asking yourself right now, why don't we just go to the auditorium and take attendance there? Well, it may come to that. We're not going to start off that way, though. We are going to start off in the classroom. We're going to take attendance there, then go to the auditorium. Once that is down, then we can move on to maybe doing it in the auditorium, but we'll see. We don't want things to be complicated to start with anyways. Okay, so homerooms, when you're not in assembly, again, I was saying you can do Avid structures, you can do Avid tutorials, study hall, guided lessons that come up. You can, while we're virtual, we can run homerooms and Google Meets. Now, I'm not saying this is a requirement just yet. We're going to be doing some other things through these homerooms as well, for middle school specifically, where they will maybe be entering a Google Meets with counselors and doing some of these assembly type things through Google Meets. But you need to set up a Google Classroom for your homeroom still, so that you can put info and links there, so that you can still communicate to your 5th period class. Okay, because that will still be vital. They will need information from there. Okay, I don't think there's an exit ticket for this part here. I'm not sure how that got swung back around, but that is essentially all for mine. We will be holding a Q&A session Friday. What day is Friday? I think it's the 3rd. Maybe it's the 3rd or the 4th, September 3rd. Let me just check and see that real quick. So we will be holding a Q&A session for about an hour on September 4th. to follow up. So if you have questions on either one of these topics, you can pop into those sessions. It'll probably be held on Google Meets, and we'll be getting those links out to you, and then you can come in there and you can ask questions about any of these at that time. So that'll kind of be like my office hours, right? All right, see you then, and those. Thanks for attending.